The teens at the auto garage laughed at the old janitor, mocking his slow steps and worn-out clothes. To them, Elijah was just a nobody with a broom. But what they didn't know, he once raced at 200 mph, cheered by millions. Before the crash, he was a Formula One legend. When his past roars back to life, the bullies are left speechless, and what happens next will change them forever. In the sleepy outskirts of Lisbon, Portugal, where the Tagus River glinted gold under the late afternoon sun, there stood an old, weathered garage tucked between crumbling brick buildings. Its faded sign read Martin's Auto Haven, though the locals just called it the garage. Every Saturday, the place buzzed with life. Teenagers from all corners of the city trickled in, their voices loud with bravado as they tinkered with engines, swapped stories about street races, and dreamed of horsepower that could outrun their troubles. The air smelled of grease, gasoline, and the salty breeze rolling in from the coast. It was a sanctuary for the restless, a proving ground for the bold. And there, amid the chaos, was Elijah, pushing 60, with skin weathered like the cork oaks dotting the Portuguese countryside. He moved silently through the garage, broom in hand. His faded blue overalls hung loose on his wiry frame, patched at the knees from years of wear. A sun-bleached baseball cap shadowed his face, hiding sharp brown eyes that rarely met anyone else's. To the kids, he was just the janitor, an old man who swept floors, emptied trash bins, and stayed out of the way. Invisible, harmless. "Yo, Eli!" a voice barked one Saturday, cutting through the hum of a revving engine. It was Tomas, a wiry 17-year-old with a mop of dark curls and a smirk that spelled trouble. He leaned against a beat-up Fiat, wiping oil-stained hands on his jeans. "You missed a spot over here. What do we even keep you around for, huh?" A few of the other boys, Diogo, a stocky kid with a buzz cut, and Afonso, lanky and loud, snickered, egging him on. Elijah didn't flinch. He just kept sweeping, the rhythmic scrape of his broom against concrete drowning out their taunts. "Leave him alone, Tomas," piped up Inés, one of the few girls in the group. She was 16, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense, her hands buried in the guts of a carburetor. "He's not hurting anyone." "Yeah, but he's a ghost, Inés," Tomas shot back, tossing a rag in Elijah's direction. It landed a few feet short. "Old man's probably never even driven anything faster than a tractor. Look at him, pathetic." Elijah paused, just for a heartbeat, his grip tightening on the broom. Then he moved on, head down, as if he hadn't heard a word. The kids didn't know his story. They didn't care to. To them, he was a relic, a punchline. And maybe, Elijah thought as he swept, that was how he liked it. But that Saturday was different. It started with a sputter, a sharp, ugly cough from the engine of a souped-up Peugeot 205 that Diogo had been bragging about all week. The boys had spent hours tweaking it, dreaming of tearing up the back roads outside the city. Now, it sat dead in the middle of the garage, refusing to turn over. Diogo cursed under his breath, kicking the tire. Tomas popped the hood, peering inside with the confidence of someone who'd watched too many YouTube tutorials. "Probably the spark plugs," Tomas declared, though his voice wavered. "Or, the fuel line. Yeah, that's it." "You don't know shit," Afonso laughed, shoving him aside. "Let me look." Half an hour passed, then an hour. The boys argued, tools clattered, and the Peugeot stayed stubbornly silent. Inés rolled her eyes and went back to her own project, muttering about boys and their egos. The garage grew tense, the air thick with frustration. That's when Elijah set his broom against the wall and ambled over. "Move," he said, his voice low and gravelly, the first word he'd spoken all day. The boys froze, startled by the sound. Tomas smirked, crossing his arms. "What, you gonna fix it, old man? Go back to your sweeping." Elijah didn't answer. He leaned over the engine, his hands steady as they traced wires and probed components. The kids watched, half amused, half curious. He tapped a small, overlooked valve near the fuel injector, then straightened up. "Crank it." Diogo hesitated, then shrugged and climbed into the driver's seat. The key turned. The engine roared to life, smooth and fierce, like it had been waiting for permission. The garage erupted in stunned silence, then a chorus of whoops and curses. "How the hell?" Tomas started, but Elijah was already walking back to his broom. "Wait," Inés called, stepping forward. "How'd you know that? That was like expert-level stuff." Elijah stopped, his back to them. For a long moment he didn't speak. The kids exchanged glances, the air heavy with something new, something electric. Then he turned, pulling off his cap to reveal a shock of gray hair and those sharp, unreadable eyes. "Used to work on cars like that," he said simply. "A long time ago." "Yeah, right," Afonso scoffed. "What, you were some mechanic or something?" Elijah's lips twitched, the ghost of a smile. "Something like that." It was Tomas who pushed it. "Come on, Eli, don't bullshit us. What's your deal?" The old man sighed, running a hand over his weathered face. The garage went quiet, the hum of the Peugeot the only sound. Then he spoke, his voice steady but distant, like he was pulling the words from a deep, locked vault. "My name's Elijah Okoye, and back in the 90s, I raced Formula One." The words hung there, impossible and heavy. The kids stared, mouths slack. Tomas laughed, a sharp, disbelieving bark. "No way! You? A racer? You're messing with us." But Inés wasn't laughing. She studied him, her mind racing. "Okoye. I've heard that name. My dad used to talk about some driver. Fastest guy on the track," he said. "Disappeared after a crash or something." Elijah nodded, just once. "That'd be me." The garage was still, save for the low purr of the Peugeot. Elijah's words lingered like smoke, curling into the corners of the room. Formula One. The kids exchanged looks, skepticism warring with awe. Tomas crossed his arms tighter, his jaw set. "Prove it," he said, voice sharp. "You don't look like no racer to me." Elijah didn't rise to the bait. He reached into the pocket of his overalls and pulled out a small, worn keychain, a silver steering wheel etched with the words Monaco 94. He tossed it to Inés, who caught it deftly. She turned it over in her hands, her eyes widening. "This is real," she murmured. "My dad's got a book with this logo in it. Winners got these." "Still don't mean nothing," Diogo muttered, but his tone was less certain now. Afonso just stared, his usual bravado gone. Elijah leaned against a workbench, his gaze drifting somewhere far beyond the garage walls. "I started racing in '87, he said. "Back in England, where I grew up. My folks moved there from Nigeria when I was a kid. Dad was a mechanic, taught me everything he knew. I was good, damn good. Got scouted by a team in '91, made it to F1 by '93. Won races. Monaco, Silverstone, Spa. People said I was the next big thing." His voice was steady, but there was a weight to it, like each word cost him something. The kids listened, rapt now, the broom forgotten in the corner. "So what happened?" Inés asked, clutching the keychain. "Why'd you stop?" Elijah's eyes darkened. '96, Monza, Italy. Big race, big crowd. I was leading half a second ahead of the pack. Then my front wing failed. Car spun out at 180 miles an hour. Hit the barrier, flipped 3 times. I walked away, somehow. My teammate didn't. The garage went cold. Inés swallowed hard. Tomas shifted, uncomfortable. "That's rough," he said, almost too quiet to hear. "Rougher than you think," Elijah continued. His name was Luca Rossi. Italian kid, 24 years old. Press loved him, golden boy, face of the future. When he died, they needed someone to blame. Guess who they picked? "You," Afonso said, piecing it together. "Me." Elijah's laugh was bitter. Never mind the engineers who botched the wing design. Never mind the team pushing us to run on fumes. I was the black driver, the outsider. Newspapers called me reckless, said I didn't belong. Fans threw bottles at me in the pits. Sponsors dropped me overnight. By the time the investigation cleared my name, it didn't matter. I was done. He paused, letting the story settle. The kids didn't know what to say. Inés clutched the keychain tighter, her knuckles pale. Tomas looked away, kicking at a stray bolt on the floor. "Why Portugal?" Diogo asked finally. "Why here?" Elijah shrugged. "After I quit, I drifted. Ended up in Lisbon because it was quiet. Found this garage, started sweeping floors for Old Man Martins. Been here ever since. Keeps me close to the cars without the noise." The silence stretched, heavy with questions no one dared ask. Then Tomas spoke, his voice softer than before. "You ever miss it? Racing?" Elijah met his eyes, unflinching. "Every damn day." The next Saturday, the garage felt different. The kids still showed up, Tomas with his swagger, Diogo with his loud laugh, Afonso trailing behind. But their eyes kept darting to Elijah. He swept the floor like always, cap pulled low, but now they noticed things they hadn't before. The way his hands moved, precise and sure, the faint scars crisscrossing his knuckles. He wasn't invisible anymore. Inés was the first to break the ice. She sidled up to him mid-morning, holding out a greasy alternator. "Hey, Elijah, can you tell me what's wrong with this? Been trying to figure it out all week." He glanced at it, then at her. "Brushes are worn. Check the voltage regulator too. It's probably shot." He handed it back and she grinned. "Thanks. You're like a walking manual." He grunted, but there was a flicker of warmth in it. Over the next hour, she kept asking questions, small ones, technical ones. He answered every time, short but exact. By noon, Diogo joined in, dragging over a carburetor he'd mangled. Think you could look at this? Screwed it up pretty bad." Elijah fixed it in 10 minutes, barely breaking a sweat. Diogo muttered a grudging thanks. And soon Afonso was there too, asking about tire pressure for a hypothetical race. Tomas hung back, watching, his arms crossed like he was guarding something. That night, after the others left, Tomas lingered. Elijah was locking up, the garage dim under flickering fluorescence. "You really were famous, huh?" Tomas said, almost accusing. "Once," Elijah replied, not turning around. "Then why you let us treat you like shit? You could have shut us up any time." Elijah paused, keys jangling in his hand. "Didn't see the point. You're kids. You learn or you don't." Tomas scowled. "That's it? You just take it?" "I've taken worse," Elijah said, and there was steel in his voice now. "You think a few smart-ass comments bother me after what I've been through? Words don't break a man. People do." Tomas didn't have a comeback for that. He just nodded, slow, and walked out into the night. Over the weeks, the dynamic shifted. The kids started seeking Elijah out, not just for fixes, but for stories. He didn't talk much, but when he did, they hung on every word. He told them about racing under Monaco's lights, the roar of the crowd, the split-second decisions that meant victory or disaster. He didn't sugarcoat it, spoke of the crashes, the politics, the way he'd been chewed up and spat out. And always, threaded through it, was the shadow of race, the slurs from rival drivers, the whispers in the paddock, the assumption he'd fail because of where he'd come from. Inés started calling him Professor, half joking, but it stuck. Diogo and Afonso followed her lead, asking him to check their work. Even Tomás softened, though he'd never admit it. They were learning about engines, about life, about the man they'd dismissed. But not everyone saw it that way. It was late April when trouble rolled in. A new kid showed up. Rui, 19, broad-shouldered and mean-eyed. He'd heard about the garage from the street racing crowd and brought a souped-up BMW that growled like a beast. He didn't care about learning. He wanted to show off, and he didn't like Elijah. "Old man thinks he's hot shit now?" Rui sneered one Saturday, watching Elijah help Inés with a timing belt. "Sweeping floors don't make you a racer." "Shut up, Rui," Inés snapped. "He's forgotten more about cars than you'll ever know." Rui laughed, cold and sharp. "Yeah? Where I'm from, we don't let guys like him touch our stuff. Bad luck." The words landed like a punch. Elijah stiffened, broom still in his hands. The garage went quiet, the kids tensing. Tomás stepped forward, fists clenched. "Say that again." Rui smirked. "You heard me. He's a has-been. Probably why he's here hiding with you losers." Elijah set the broom down, slow and deliberate. "You got a problem with me, kid?" "Yeah," Rui shot back. "I don't trust you near my car. Don't need your kind screwing it up." The air crackled. Inés moved to intervene, but Elijah raised a hand. "Let him talk," he said, calm as stone. "He's got something to prove." Rui took the bait. "Fine, let's see if you're worth a damn. Fix my car. Keeps cutting out at high speed. You fuck it up, I'm done here. You don't touch it, I'm done anyway." Elijah nodded. "Deal." He worked in silence, the kids watching like hawks. Rui hovered, smirking, waiting for a mistake. But Elijah's hands were a blur, diagnosing, tweaking, testing. 20 minutes later, he stepped back. Throttle body was clogged, cleaned it. Try it now. Rui climbed in, skeptical, and gunned the engine. It roared, flawless. He drove it around the block, tires squealing, then pulled back in, his face a mix of fury and disbelief. "Lucky guess," he spat, but he didn't leave. That night, Tomás cornered Rui outside. "You don't get it, do you? He's better than all of us, and you're too dumb to see it." Rui shoved him. "Watch your mouth, punk." The fight was quick. Tomás landed a punch, Rui swung back, and then Elijah was there, pulling them apart. "Enough!" he barked. Rui stormed off, cursing, but the message was clear. Elijah wasn't invisible anymore. By summer, the garage had changed. Elijah wasn't just the janitor. He was the heart of it. The kids built a car together, a scrappy little Renault, under his guidance. They raced it on a dirt track outside Lisbon, not for money, but for the thrill. Elijah didn't drive, but he stood at the finish line, stopwatch in hand, barking tips as they flew past. Rui came back, quieter now, and joined in. He never apologized, but he stopped talking trash. The kids learned to look past skin, past rumors, past their own egos. Elijah taught them that respect wasn't about titles or trophies. It was about what you did when no one was watching. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Inés handed Elijah a flyer. Street race next month. Legal one, charity thing. You should enter. He shook his head. Those days are gone, kid. Maybe, she said. But you're not. Think about it. He didn't answer, but he kept the flyer. That night, alone in the garage, he ran his fingers over the Renault's hood, feeling the hum of possibility. He thought of Luca, of the crash, of the years lost to silence. And for the first time in decades, he wondered if the track still called his name. The kids never found out if he raced again. But they saw him smile more, heard him laugh once or twice, and when they left the garage each Saturday, they carried something bigger than car parts, a lesson in humility, a glimpse of resilience, a question about who they'd become. Somewhere out there, the road stretched on, waiting.